Welcome back to News Around, the definitive sanctuary for those who seek the heartbeat behind the headlines. We are not here to merely skim the surface of the tabloids, we are here to excavate the emotional truths of the stars who define our screens and our imaginations. Today, we stand at the epicenter of a media earthquake that has left the entertainment world paralyzed. We are witnessing a tragedy and a redemption unfolding in real time. A story of collapsed bodies, broken souls, and a confession so raw it feels like an open wound. We are talking about Cemre Arda and Gökberk Yıldırım. Before we step into the chaos of the hospital corridors and the tearful admissions on the pavement, we invite you to anchor yourself in our community. Please subscribe and activate the notification bell so you never miss a beat of these developing sagas. And for those who wish to empower our investigative storytelling and gain access to the deepest insights, we strongly urge you to click the join button below. Your support is the lifeblood of News Around. Now, let us document the day that changed everything. The entertainment industry is accustomed to scripted dramas, but nothing could have prepared the public for the visceral reality that unfolded in the early hours of this morning. The day began not with the usual flurry of promotional posts or paparazzi snapshots, but with the wail of sirens and images that will undoubtedly be etched into the collective memory of the nation for years to come. Cemre Arda, the luminous star whose smile has graced 1,000 magazine covers, was rushed to the hospital in a state that sparked immediate, suffocating panic among her millions of fans. The initial photographs to circulate were harrowing in their vulnerability. The actress, usually a pillar of strength and grace, was seen being physically supported by two nurses, her legs unable to bear her own weight. Her face was drained of all color, a mask of porcelain fragility, and one hand was pressed instinctively, almost desperately, against her abdomen, a gesture that sent a shockwave of fear through everyone who knows what is at stake regarding her pregnancy. As the ambulance doors slammed shut and the medical team acted with absolute, frantic speed, a silence fell over the gathered crowd. It was the silence of held breath, of collective prayer. However, amidst this atmosphere of medical emergency, a second shockwave was building, one that was emotional rather than physical. At the precise moment the hospital doors swallowed Cemre's collapsed figure, Gökberk Yıldırım. Her estranged partner, her emotional shadow, and the man who has been the silent storm at the center of her life, stepped out from the periphery. He decided, in that moment of crisis, to do something he had refused to do for months. He decided to speak. As the ambulances drove away, fading into the distance, the cameras swiveled to focus on Gawkberg. What they captured was a man completely transformed. Gone was the confident, somewhat arrogant heartthrob who usually commanded the press with a single glance. In his place stood a man who looked shattered. He appeared tired, defeated, his shoulders slumped under an invisible weight, yet there was a terrifying determination in his eyes. He did not look like a star. He looked like a survivor of a shipwreck. When he spoke, his voice trembled. Not from the insecurity of stage fright, but from the crushing emotional burden of the truth he was about to unleash. I can't stay silent any longer. Not after what happened today, not anymore, he began, his voice cracking as journalists swarmed around him, sensing that history was being made. The time has come to tell the whole truth about what happened between us. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, the actor didn't shy away from the lenses. He didn't hide behind the cold, impenetrable wall of silence he had built since their separation. Instead, he stood naked in front of the world, ready to tear down his own defenses brick by brick. The statements that followed were a torrent of self-recrimination that stunned the seasoned reporters present. With a trembling voice that barely rose above a whisper, Gawkberg acknowledged that he was the architect of his own misery. I failed. And she paid the price, he declared, a sentence that hung heavy in the morning air. He admitted to making catastrophic mistakes during his relationship with Seamra, errors in judgment that, according to him, had eroded the foundation of trust they had built over years. I lost control of many things. I let my insecurities ruin what we had, he confessed, his gaze fixed on the pavement as if he were watching the wreckage of their past playing out on the concrete. He asserted that in his blindness, he never imagined the consequences of his emotional withdrawal would end up jeopardizing Cemre's physical health and her pregnancy. She didn't deserve to go through any of this alone, And yet, that's exactly what happened. I was afraid. And when you're afraid, you hurt the people you love. These words, filled with a regret so potent it was almost palpable, left both his staunchest defenders and his harshest critics in complete silence. There is no defense against a man who is already prosecuting himself. In a particularly difficult moment of the impromptu press conference, Gawkberg touched upon the deepest wound of all. He admitted that his greatest sin was not an action, but an absence. He confessed that he walked away just as Seamra was entering her most vulnerable emotional phase, leaving her to navigate the storm in solitude. She needed me, and I wasn't there. I can't justify it, I can't change it. I can only acknowledge it. These words tragically coincided with the medical bulletin released moments later, revealing that the actress had been admitted for observation due to severe stress-related complications. Hospital doctors stated that accumulated emotional pressure, the very pressure Gawkberg was admitting to causing, may have triggered the crisis that led to her physical collapse. The correlation between his absence and her hospitalization was drawn in a straight, devastating line. Perhaps the most explosive revelation of the morning came when a brave journalist asked him about the cryptic phrase Seamra had uttered days earlier, "I'll take my baby." Gawkberg swallowed hard, took a deep, shuddering breath, and for the first time, addressed the rumors of a third party directly. "If she chose another man to be the father of her baby, it's because I failed as a partner, as a support, and as a man," he said, his voice laced with bitterness directed at himself. "No one has the right to judge her. What she did for protection. I drove her to that point." His words landed like an earthquake. It was the first time the actor had publicly admitted that he had lost the most important place in Seamra's life, not just as a lover, but as a protector and potential father. He absolved her of any guilt, placing the entire burden of the situation squarely on his own shoulders. His sincerity was disarming. It bewildered even his own fans who had spent months defending him against allegations of negligence. What truly broke the internet, causing social media timelines to flood with tears and commentary, was the actor's final, heartbreaking confession. With tears finally welling up in his eyes and spilling over, Gawkberg whispered, "I love her. I've always loved her. But love is useless if you don't know how to care for it. Maybe I'm no longer the person she needs. And if the man she chose can give that baby what I couldn't, then I'll have to accept it, even if it destroys me." This public admission of emotional failure, of vulnerability, and of a love that is now unrequited and sacrificial, left the public completely shocked. For the first time, the actor displayed a humanity he had never allowed the media to see. He was no longer the idol, he was a man mourning the life he had destroyed with his own hands. This level of raw honesty is unprecedented in our industry. Gawkberg is taking full responsibility, but is it too little, too late? We want to hear from you, the News Around community. Do you believe his remorse can change anything, or has the damage been done irrevocably? Is this a brave confession or a desperate plea? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if this story is moving you, please hit the like button to help us share this emotional journey. As Gawkberg finished his statement, tears began to stream freely down his face. Someone close to him, perhaps a manager or a friend, took his arm to gently pull him away before he collapsed emotionally in front of the cameras. Reporters shouted questions, but the actor could no longer speak. His words had been enough to open a new, dark chapter in this story filled with heartbreak. Meanwhile, as Gökberk Yıldırım's words spread like wildfire across the digital landscape, the atmosphere inside the hospital where Cemre Arda had been admitted transformed into a whirlwind of tension. The corridors were swarming with reporters trying to bribe staff for updates, while doctors hurried around with grim faces. It was clear that the actress's emotional state had deteriorated even further after hearing, through her team, that Gawkberg had told the press everything. From the sanctuary of her room, Seamra broke her silence. "I don't want to see him, not now," she reportedly told her staff. According to sources inside the room, when one of her assistants informed her of Gawkberg's public confession, Seamra closed her eyes and began to cry silently. It wasn't the loud cry of anger, nor the sobbing of deep sadness, it was a mixture of exhaustion, disappointment, and a strange, painful relief. Relief because, finally, He had admitted to the world what she had carried alone in silence for months. But her first words after hearing the summary of the interview were cold, harsh, and protective. "I don't want him in here. Not after all this." The doctors, prioritizing the health of the unborn child, accepted her decision without question. There was an almost sacred aura of protection surrounding her room. Anything that disturbed her peace could be dangerous. Gawkberg was effectively barred from the one place he desperately wanted to be. Then came the moment that changed the narrative from tragic to devastating. In an unexpected breach of privacy, an assistant in the room, allegedly without ill intent, perhaps trying to capture evidence of the news coverage, recorded Seamra as she heard a snippet of Gawkberg's statement for the first time on the hospital television. The video, which leaked online shortly after, shows the actress lying in the hospital bed, and 4-line taped to her bruised arm, staring intently at the screen mounted on the wall. In the grainy footage, her breathing quickens visibly. Her hands, resting on the white sheets, begin to tremble. The audio from the TV is clear. Gawkberg's voice fills the room, saying, "I still love her, but maybe I don't deserve to be by her side anymore." Upon hearing this specific sentence, Semra's composure shatters. She drops her face into her hands and bursts into a sob so visceral, so filled with pain, that it shakes everyone in the room and now, everyone who has watched the video. It is the sound of a woman who still loves the man who hurt her, mourning the reality that he might be right. Perhaps they are too broken to be fixed. The leaking of this video has turned the public discourse on its head. There are no villains here anymore, only victims of circumstance and fear. Gawkberg has prostrated himself before the court of public opinion, and Seamra has shown the depth of her lingering pain. What happens now is a mystery. Will Gawkberg's confession pave the way for a reconciliation, or was it the final eulogy for their relationship? Can Seamra forgive the man who wasn't there, now that he is begging to be? At the hospital, a spokesperson confirmed that Seamra is being closely monitored but is currently stable physically, although emotionally very shaken. She has not yet responded officially to Gawkberg's statements, but her tears have spoken louder than any press release ever could. This is a story that reminds us that behind the glamour, the fame, and the headlines, there are just two people trying to navigate the wreckage of a love that was once their whole world. Gawkberg has spoken, and Seamra has wept. Now, we wait to see if healing is possible. We here at News Around will remain vigilant, bringing you updates on Seamra's condition and the fallout from this historic day. We wish Seamra a speedy recovery and peace for both of them. What are your wishes for them? Let us know in the comments. And please, if you value this kind of in-depth, empathetic reporting, subscribe to our channel and click the join button to support our work. Until next time, take care of your hearts.